Hi, I'm Linda and welcome back to the Barn Kitchen. Today we're going to be preparing pumpkins for canning so we can use the pumpkin meat, if you will, for pies and breads and whatever else you need canned pumpkin for. But I don't buy pumpkin. I try to buy as little as I have to throughout the year of anything. So these came from my garden. I picked them a week or so ago. They've cured out. The stems are nice and stiff. But what I'm going to do now is process them in quart jars for use throughout the year. So stay with me and I'll show you exactly how to do it step by step. Okay, I got a head start on this before I turn the camera on. But what you're going to do is take your pumpkins after you've washed them and dried them off, get rid of all the dirt if there's any on the outside. You're going to cut them into, I like to cut mine into quarters. Half it and then half it again. And that's the most daunting task of this entire process. Make sure that you use a serrated knife too, because it just cuts the pumpkin so much easier. Once they're cut, you're going to grab something. This is a cookie scoop, an ice cream scoop, whatever you want to use, and you're going to scrape out this interior with all of the seeds and put that into a bowl. And you want to save that because you can use these seeds to plant for next year's crop to give away to friends, because you definitely don't need that many unless you're going to have a whole field of pumpkins. But you can also roast them and use them as a snack. So you're going to just scrape that down to where you get to where it's a paler orange. You can see when you get all that membrane removed. Scrape it down really good and go on to the next piece. I've started with 13 pumpkins today. I got 4 more to cut and clean, and then I'm ready to start cooking them. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these done. I just wanted to see what the process is. Like I said, the most difficult thing is cutting the pumpkin. Okay, I've got all the pumpkin cut up, got the seeds and the membrane scraped out, ended up with a nice bowl of seeds here, which I'll take care of later. And what we're going to do now is put this in the oven to bake. I put it in a roasting pan. I had so much that it wouldn't fit into one roasting pan, so I have a stovetop roaster sitting over there that I've also added it to. You're going to add 3 cups of water to your pan so that the pumpkin doesn't dry out. And then you're going to cover it, the lid, and you can use any bowl that you've got as long as you've got a lid. And I'm going to cook mine in the oven at 350 for a little over, about an hour actually. Put that in there. I've already got the oven hot, ready to go. And I have the other in my roaster oven over here. Ooh, that is hot. Cooking also. Now, if you wanted to, you could also cook this in the microwave. You put it in a bowl with some water and a lid again, and cook it for about 10 minutes if you just have a small amount. You could also cook it on top of your stove in a pan with a lid. But I prefer to put it in the oven, that way I can do other things while it's baking. So we're gonna let that cook for an hour, and then I'll show you how to peel it from the skin and get it in the cubes, get it ready to can. Okay, we've got the pumpkin out of the oven, it's cooked, and now what we've got to do is peel it from the rind and then cut it into chunks. And it is pretty hot right now. I've let it cool for a few minutes, but it is still pretty hot. The skin doesn't fall off of the pumpkin, but it comes away very easy. Grab a piece here that's not too hot. This one isn't bad. The best thing to do is cradle it in your hand with like a silicone mitt, and then I'm taking a butter knife, a blunt knife, and just run along the edge. And it separates fairly easy. You want to stay as close to the edge as possible so you don't waste any of the pumpkin itself. And usually that knife will just slide right along there, see? You can end up peeling off some of it. So we have to do this now to all of it. And then what we're going to do is cut it into 1-inch cubes, and it's ready to go in the jars. Well, come on. There, you see, got it all off, and it's just set, and I got the peeling here, so I'll go on to the next piece. So I'm going to get all of this peeled And then what we do is we cut it into 1-inch pieces. You don't want to mash it. Just cut it into 1-inch cubes. Pumpkin all peeled and cubed. Got the jars ready for canning. They came out of the dishwasher. They're hot, ready to go. And I've got boiling water here to add as a liquid for it. So let's get this done. So you're going to add the chunks to the jars. And you don't want to pack them in super tight. Just get them as full as you can up to the rim. That one's got too much in it. Take one or two, take some of that out. I've got my pressure cooker behind me with warmed up, ready to go, and I've got my sealing lids have been warming on the stove, so they're ready to go. You don't add anything to this like salt or anything. It's just the cubes and then the boiling water, cubes of pumpkin. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but I've got another container of water boiling because I know I'm not going to have quite enough here. So this, like I said earlier, was 13 pie pumpkins. So I'm not for sure what we'll end up with. It's like quite a bit. Each one of these jars will make a pie, or if you want to use it of a bread or whatever. It's the equivalent of about 2 cups of pumpkin. Okay, so before I get too far away, I'm going to fill that with the boiling water and see where I'm at. Each one of those up to with from 1 inch from the top. Here. Okay, so then, as within canning green beans or other items, you want to take your wand in and remove all the air bubbles. So I just run it through, and it kind of distributes the chunks around. And sometimes you may want to add some more if when they settle, you see you could get more into the jar. That's fine. You just really want to get that air out of there. They all look pretty good. I think I'm just going to leave it the way they are. Got my lids here. So you want to take a rag or a clean cloth, I hate to say rag, but wipe that rim and make sure there's nothing on there so that it wouldn't interfere with sealing. And take a ring, drop it on there, and then a rim, and you hand tighten only, and it's ready to go into the pressure cooker. And do that again with this next one. Add a ring or a lid with a rim. They're so pretty, I think. So we're going to do that with all the jars. Get them in the pressure cooker. It's going to cook at 15 pounds of pressure since I'm above 1,000 feet. If you were below that, I believe it's 10 pounds of pressure with the type of machine that I've got anyway. So it's going to be 15 pounds of pressure for 90 minutes. And I'm going to get the rest of these in there. And once I get the pressure cooker loaded, we'll come back to the video and I'll show you what to look for as far as getting the pressure cooker going and making sure everything is safe. Mine is I've got the pressure cooker loaded and it is ready to go. It held 14 quarts. My cooker, which is an All-American, requires you to put oil around the rim. So I usually just put a few drops on a paper towel and rub it around that rim and just get oil. That gives it a seal. Then you put the lid on and follow the manufacturer's instructions for whatever pressure cooker that you have. And you want to try on this one to set it up evenly all the way around. Should have an even gap. So I put a few on and eyeball it. And it needs to come down here. And then what I'm going to do once I get this leveled up the way that I'm happy with, tighten everything really good. That one should come up. And then you want to turn the heat on high and let it exhaust through this vent for 10 minutes before you put the pressure gauge on. This gauge. And mine, when I do put it on, will be at 15 pounds of pressure. But like I said, I'm going to turn this fire up on high and let it vent through there. It's been 10 minutes. I don't know if you can see the steam coming through the exhaust hole there. But now what I'm simply going to do is, be careful, just drop that on under the 15 pounds of pressure. And then we will start to see the pressure rise. It's already rising here. So what it's going to do, it's going to go up to 15 pounds on this dial. And then that's going to start jiggling. At the time that starts jiggling is when you set your timer. And my timer, again, is going to be set for 90 minutes. So while we're waiting on the pressure cooker to come up to 15 pounds, I wanted to show you, I did have some pumpkin left over that wasn't able to go in the jars. I ended up with 14 quarts, but this much left over. So what I'm going to do with it is freeze it, because I certainly don't want to just throw it away. And I'm not really wanting to make a pumpkin pie right now. So you just take it and put it in a freezer bag. Make sure you mark your bag with what the contents are and the date, which I've done. This pumpkin, today's the 16th of October. And you just put it in there and put her in the freezer. I'm going to try and mash it down a little bit, make sure I get air out of there. But there's more than enough in here to make a pie, possibly two. You never come out quite exact on your jars when you're canning. Kind of mush it down in there so it'll lay flat in the freezer. Once they're cooked, they smash quite well. Get all the air out of it. Okay, we've reached 15 pounds of pressure. You can see on the dial, and the gauge has started jiggling. So right now is when you want to start your timer. Set it for 90 minutes, and I'm going to adjust that flame down just a little bit so it doesn't maintain solid pressure. It needs to jiggle about 4 to 6 times in a minute. So you get that adjusted, and then let it go for 90 minutes. Okay, the 90 minutes is up, so the only thing I'm going to do is just turn the stove off. Turn the stove off and leave the pressure cooker alone until the gauge goes back to 0. You do not touch it until then. It can be very dangerous. Once it drops to 0, which is going to be a couple hours because it's been going for 90 minutes, then I'm going to take the jars out, set them on the counter, and leave them undisturbed for 24 hours. After the 24 hours, I'm going to remove the bands, check the seals, wipe them off with a clean towel, and get rid of the hard water spots, date them, and then they're going to go into storage. I know this seems like a lengthy process, but believe me, it's well worth the time. It's been a long afternoon. I know I look a little haggard. I don't have hair and makeup like the Pioneer woman does. But to me, there's something very gratifying about serving that piece of pumpkin pie during the holidays and saying this came from my garden. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day. Thank you, and see you next time.